I placed this item on the agenda for discussion, and hopefully maybe we can get some resolution. And it's regarding last minute, when we have the agenda items put on the agenda, last minute contracts, reports, supporting documentation for items that are on the agenda. We're typically receiving documents on Friday and even Monday until late in the day, and to support these agenda items. And we're also seeing, as we did today, items being pulled from the agenda with increasing frequency by staff. So they're getting items on the agenda, pulling them off, and we're seeing that quite a bit lately. I don't know if that's related to this issue. And according to the Board of Supervisors policy C 2.51B, the clerk of the board requires items to be submitted to her no later than 5 p.m., 13 calendar days from the scheduled meeting date. And her task is obviously to pull all this together, get it on an agenda in an orderly manner. And if she's getting 13 days to do that, the Board of Supervisors are sometimes getting less than a day to prepare for discussion, review, get questions answered. We have a lot of questions come up in the boardroom that people get annoyed with, but the reason for that is because we're getting items at the last minute. So what I'd like to do is have 13 calendar days for the Board of Supervisors to have the data, all of the supporting documentation, require that the department heads or anyone putting something on the agenda have all of those elements that are going to be supporting the item they have on the agenda submitted to the clerk of the board and to the board members no later than 13 days prior to board meetings. I don't think it's an unreasonable request if our policy states that the clerk gets the items 13 days in advance. And we're having items that come up on the agenda. They're not getting careful review because of the fact that they're coming through so fast, so many of them, and we are having fewer meetings. And I think it's especially unfair to Supervisor Christie. He is new and he's still getting staff in place, getting used to the way the county government functions. And I can tell you, I'm on my 5th year here and in my 2nd term. And it takes a long time to really understand the way everything works and to understand all of the systems and all the nuances and intricacies of how this county works. I'm still learning. So my hope is that all members of this board will support getting the documentation provided at least 13 days ahead to the Board of Supervisors. And if the documentation isn't ready, then the item needs to be put on the next agenda. It would allow sufficient time to understand and evaluate all the materials, and it also allows time to get clarification. As I said, on the questions that a supervisor has, it won't answer them all. A lot of times things will come over into the boardroom. And I would like to hear, and I understand we may or may not vote on this today, but I'd like to hear suggestions from department heads, other board members, and thoughts on what you think about this issue.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Elias.
I share Supervisor Miller's concern about late arriving material, and from time to time it seems to be a real detriment. All of us were new on this board at one time or another, and we all had to catch up and learn how to deal with the agenda that's in front of us and the supporting material behind it. So, no excuses there. That's just the way life is. The truth is that it's important for us to be able to have up-to-the-minute information about items that are on the agenda so that we can make the best decision that we can possibly make. I found that in my time on the board, if you continuously study what's going on, you pretty much know what's coming down the pike and what's associated with those items on the agenda. In the whole, although I share Supervisor Miller's concern about that, from time to time, I think it's a system that works, and I think it's a system that helps Pima County be nimble as a local government, rather than dragging things on and continuing the situation of inefficiencies that I think we see with some of our other local governments, not being able to get to business in a timely manner. And sometimes items that are on the agenda are very important that they be passed in a timely manner for a variety of different reasons. So it's pretty much part of what we have to do as being supervisors and part of the work that we are required to do and our staff is required to do. And it is a great sacrifice. And I do thank the members of the staff on District 5 who work on things continuously. I'm sure that all of the staff people and all the supervisors who sit on this board do their best to make sure that information is collected and deliberated upon in the most fair manner. I've seen that throughout the 15 years I've sat on this board, so I kind of see it as a non-issue in the end.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Miller.
I'd just like to point out that if we have a disciplined staff that understands that they have to have the materials submitted in advance, and to make good decisions, you want to have the most, an adequate amount of time getting information. I'll give you a good example, the worldview vote. I got that information on Friday. We voted on a Tuesday morning, and that was a huge contract to research and understand. That is not appropriate. That is not good practice. We need to have the adequate time to be able to review. And, you know, I work every weekend before we have a board meeting, all weekend long. And I will continue doing that, but I think decision-making process would be a lot better and people would be a lot better informed. Information would be provided in advance, and I think better decisions would be made. I don't think doing it by the seat of our pants at the last minute is a really good way to make business decisions, and not having adequate time to study things and have discussion just is not good practice. And I'm not sure what communities you're referring to. I can tell you Sarita, Oro Valley, they get their information 2 weeks ahead of time. And I think they do a pretty darn good job. I believe it's the same in Marana, and those communities are functioning very well.
Madam Chair?
Christie.
Again, being new to this, I am kind of swimming upstream on a lot of this matters, but I do believe that one of the issues that has been facing this board is that there has not been steady deliberation of issues, and it seems from my experience of the past 6 months that a lot of things are presented at the last minute and are kind of rushed through, and I don't feel I'm doing my constituents or the citizens of Pima County justice by having to basically go to Evelyn Wood's speed reading to try to digest the reams and reams of information, and I don't see why it can't be compressed to a more succinct time frame that would allow for such deliberation. We tried study sessions, and that did not go far. So I think this is a very valid point to make and a valid way to perhaps adjust from the lack of wanting to have study sessions to confining the time frame when we receive this information. My only experience in the public realm was 5 years on the Arizona State Transportation Board, and I can tell you they had a much more disciplined way of presenting information that dealt with construction contracts in the millions and millions of dollars. And they gave you plenty of time, plenty of explanation, plenty of staff support to be able to devour and digest what is being placed before the board. And this board is in no way, shape, or form a replication of ADOT, and they dealt with the entire highway system and transportation system of the state of Arizona. So I would like very much to see exactly what Supervisor Miller is suggesting as far as a time frame for receiving this information.
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Miller.
With that, I'm going to move that we direct staff to work with Mr. Huckleberry to look at the Board of Supervisors policies concerning when these materials have to be turned in. I was told I could not do that as a Board of Supervisor member, that it has to be Mr. Huckleberry has to do that. So otherwise, I would have marked up the Board of Supervisors policy and had it here today, but I was told I am not, as a Board of Supervisor member, I am not allowed to do that. The only one that is allowed to do that is Mr. Huckleberry. So I'd like to direct him to look at the Board of Supervisors policy and analyze that process and make it so that the Board of Supervisors have 13 days to review. I'm moving that we do that.
And I'm second.
Discussion, Supervisor Elias.
Madam Chair, again, I understand the issue and I share some of your concerns, but I can't support this motion. But I would direct Mr. Huckleberry and staff to do a better job of that, because you've heard these issues come up before. So I think we can do that. But I think creating some kind of 13-day rule or something probably isn't in the best interest of the people of Pima County.
It just makes us more bureaucratic. We get business done less quickly rather than more quickly. Any other comments? Roll call.
Supervisor Christie?
Yes.
Supervisor Elias?
No.
Supervisor Miller?
Yes.
Supervisor Valdez?
No.
Chair Bronson?
No, motion fails.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor,
I do hope you heard that, Chuck, though, that we do need to do a better job of that, because there's some elements of truth in this discussion that's taken place on this item.
well, perhaps Supervisor Miller could provide, say, some specific examples that would inform the decision.